Welcome to the Wing Space podcast, a place to take up space, a space for you to settle in, sit back, relax, and focus a little bit on health, wellness, faith, family, and this crazy thing called life.
This podcast is not a replacement for mental health treatment or professional health care. In case of crisis or emergency, please contact your local healthcare provider or dial 911.
Hey there, and welcome to the Wing Space podcast, a place to take up space. Today, I am really excited to have the Jen Show with two of my lifelong friends that are going to share with us about their journey through cancer and their rock star warrior stories. Welcome back to the Wing Space podcast. I'm excited for our episode today. We're going to talk about women's health and the importance of advocating for our own needs. As I said, it's the Jen Show, so I have my friend Jen Murphy and Jennie Guy with me. So glad to have you guys on the show today. I guess, if you will, Jen, do you want to start? Obviously, we met when we were just wee little girls learning to play the piano, never even realizing that as we watched each other play the piano, we were going to end up such amazing friends. So if you just want to share a little bit about who you are and your story, we'd love to hear it.
Sure. Thanks, Jen. Exactly. We are lifelong friends, started a long time ago, and it's never stopping. You've been there for me for all kinds of things, especially my journey, and I appreciate that. Like Jen said, my name is Jen Murphy. Currently, I am a middle school math teacher in Calvert County. I'm starting my 25th year, and I absolutely love it. But just to give a little bit about my journey, I'd say the goal I have in sharing my journey is to tell women and everyone to listen to your body. And go from there, and it will tell you what you need. My journey started actually with some mental health concerns that I had for myself. I was a, young mom, had 2 kids within 18 months, just kind of pushed aside some potential delayed postpartum depression and ended up at the doctor thinking, hey, something's not right. I don't feel right. And it was that journey that started me on the journey of finding out that I had cancer. So completely unrelated. I had gone to the doctor. She had come up with a plan for me to help. I went back for a month checkup. And within that month, I was actually at my sister-in-law's house, honestly, took a shower and thought, wait, something feels kind of weird. I guess I'll just bring it up when I go to the doctor. And I did. And that started the journey there. She knew instantly there something was not right. Had me have a mammogram, my very first one at 39 years old the next morning at 8 a.m., and then within a week, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. That led to more and more tests to check things on both sides, which led us to looking through lots of options for plans and led me to, and my husband, to make the decision to have a bilateral mastectomy with reconstruction. Did not have to take traditional chemo, did not need to do radiation. So for that, I'm very thankful. But I do credit a lot of my healing and my strength throughout to my family and friends who were there every single step of the way.
Yeah, I remember, Jen, very shortly after you discovered that you had breast cancer, we've all tried, our group of friends, we've all tried to get together for dinner or lunch or whatever, as often as possible. And I remember very distinctly, you were like, girls, we got to get together because I need you to feel this thing on me and I need you to know what it feels like so that you know what it feels like for yourself. And I remember we were sitting at the table at a restaurant and all of a sudden you were like, all right, let's go to the bathroom.
First. I think I was the first. I was like, I'll go feel it.
Yeah, because you have no idea. You're told check, 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 but you poke around and you're like, I have no idea what I'm looking for. And honestly, when I felt what I felt, cancer did not come to mind. I had just based on what it felt like in the placement, I had no idea that's what it was. So yeah, I was that girl asking people, hey, you want to feel it?
Well, and from, I think everything that we learn is, oh, it's a pea. It feels like a pea and, go around. But yours was way up, like up here and it didn't feel like a pea. So I was like, is this what I'm feeling?
Yeah, it almost felt like something more on my chest wall, more like it was attached to my ribs. And I'm sure that's wrong, but that's kind of what it felt like for me.
I appreciated that chance to be able to feel it, and because it wasn't anything in my mind that I had ever thought that would feel like.
Right.
Well, and you said, Jen, and I'm sure that Jenny, you're going to say something similar to this. No pressure if you weren't planning on it. But the idea about listening to your body, that you just knew that something wasn't right. And I don't think that things happen by accident. And there was a reason why you were on this road with your doctor. And, so I feel like as women, we are shut down and we are quieted and our stories are not told because it's that time of the month. Oh, it's just hormones. Oh, she's just PMSing. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that, and our strength as women, as females, is not celebrated and honored sometimes because of those societal things that push us aside.
Right.
And so I love to hear, Jen, that you said just that you knew that something wasn't right and you said, all right, I got to get to the bottom of this.
Right.
Yeah. So Jenny, you, you and I met in middle school,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think we were a bit older than Jen and I were when we were, what do they say? Tickling the ivories when we were playing the piano. But Jenny, we were in middle school, and again, lifelong friends. So
Same homeroom, same, last name, or similar last name.
Yeah.
Yep. So same homeroom. That's where we met. And then actually I think Jen was in our homeroom too, because it was the A and the B's. I think we were all in the same homeroom. That's when I first met you guys, was middle school. Yeah. And you guys are stuck with me ever since. Have been stuck with me ever since and will continue to be.
Well, that's why they call it lifelong friends, right? It doesn't end.
That's right.
Yeah. So tell us what your story is. Tell us a little bit about you and how you came to really fight for your health and for your body.
So a lot like Jen, I had noticed that there were some things that were not right with my body. I had just sporadic bleeding. It was very odd. And I'd always been very regular, had been on the pill for a long time. So, I knew when everything was going to start with my cycle. And I noticed that I would bleed just sporadically within that month. So I thought that was odd. And I was, I went to my checks regularly. So I've had I had a pap every year. Nothing had ever come back. So I called my gynecologist and I talked to her and I said, I'm having this sporadic bleeding. So she said, okay, come in. And when I came in, I guess I should have noticed, she was like, oh, some things just aren't looking right down there. And so I was like, okay. So she started taking all these snippets of things. And so, a week goes by, I get a phone call from her and she's like, I think, I need you to come in. We have some things we need to chat about. So I was like, well, that can't be good. So I go in. Never in a million years did I think that she was going to tell me that I had cervical cancer. I mean, you could have knocked me over with a feather. I was absolutely stunned because at 44 years old, you don't ever think that you're going to hear the words, you've got cancer. So I remember sitting there and she's like, somebody's going to have to come and get you, I think. So I remember calling my mom and I was just very nonchalant, I guess, about it. Looking back at it later, she tells me the story and I don't really even remember. But, she said that I called and I said, hey, I need you to come get me. I'm at the doctor's. I have cancer, so I need you to come take me home, and I got to figure out what we're doing. She said I was just very matter of fact about it. So from there, I, very methodical, just thought, what did I need to do? So I was very lucky that my gynecologist was friends with this oncologist, gynecological oncologist. So the next day, she had me up in Baltimore with my oncologist. And he's like, yeah, you definitely have cervical cancer, but first we have a couple tests and such that we need to do just to make sure that it hasn't spread. So I needed to go get a PET scan. And I was very lucky that it hadn't spread anywhere. It was contained to my cervix. So he said, okay, you're going to have a radical hysterectomy among some other ectomies that I can't even pronounce. So I think I had 3 surgeries in one, all at the same time. Then, so after I had my surgery, I had some recovery time. I was in the hospital for a little bit. I think 2 weeks after post-op, I had an appointment and he said that I was stage 1B adenocarcinoma and it was all brought on by HPV. Again, I was shocked by that because all of my other past pap smears had said that I did not have HPV ever. So by the time I had my pap smear, which was about a year and a half, because this was the time they've now put it to like every 3 years, it had been a year and a half since I'd had one. No signs of HPV. So between that year and a half, I had already started to bleed and, sporadically, and it was a 3.5 centimeter mass that they took out of my cervix. So, or that was in my cervix when they took everything out. So, like Jen, I think if I hadn't listened to my body, I would probably be in a different situation at this point. But because I had listened to my body and I was lucky enough to get hooked up with a wonderful oncologist who took the best care of me and put me on the right path. I think that also going to your regular checkups is something that you absolutely need to do. And if you can do a yearly Pap smear, I would highly recommend it if that's something that your caregiver would allow you to do. So that's really my story.
And Jenny, I remember when you shared with us that you had received your diagnosis, and I don't know whether if it was another dinner that we were having in a conversation or not, but I remember you said, they're going to every 3 years for Pap smears now, and if you can advocate for yourself, then you need to do it. And this past year, I actually went to the doctor, and she said, okay, well, you had a Pap smear last year. We're not going to do one this year. And I said, I'd actually like you to do one. And I didn't have to argue with her about it, but I definitely had to explain to her that I had a dear friend who went 1.5 years, and the cancer had grown, and that I was advocating for myself, and I wanted it done. And she said, okay, well, it's not really recommended, or you've never had an abnormal one before. But I think that medicine has come a long way, and I understand the reason why they're spreading things out and all that stuff, but at the same time, why take a chance?
I had never had a irregular Pap ever. So it was just, when I tell you, they told me I had HPV, I was like, I'm sorry, what did I have? I was like, no. So I was, no signs of that ever had shown, ever. And I think it was just one of those times where you're like, I just didn't understand. I didn't understand, and then I think it was also, I'm not even 45 yet. Like, how does this happen? I mean, and Jen and I can attest, cancer knows no age. But, I think I thought I did everything right. I had my regular appointments. Even I would go to my physical every year. I did all of the things that you're supposed to do. And, I still got cancer. So I was just like, I think I went through a very low point of, woe is me. Why is this happening to me? Why did this happen? But, I also, with lots of great friends who I would talk to, and, sometimes would, especially, Jen and I had lots of deep conversations of, I don't understand why this happened, but we would also lean on each other. And Jen was like, well, it did happen, and we just have to be very thankful that our outcomes are the way that they are, because some people don't have those outcomes. So, and that I'll never forget that. That stayed with me forever. And she's right. We are very fortunate that our stories have ended ended might not be the right word. I know we still have doctors forever that we're going to have to go to, but our outcomes could have been much different. So I thank God every day for how things turned out. And thank God for great friends who also, I couldn't have gotten through any of this without you guys. I mean, between the foods and, taking care of me, and, the phone calls and the humor, the strength that you all gave us was amazing.
Well, having a support system is so important. And, obviously we're talking about both of your journeys through, I'll go ahead and just say it, kicking cancer's ass, right? I mean, both of you had this incredible journey, and you guys had a support system. You have amazing husbands and children and parents and family and friends that helped you through it. But I would just encourage our listeners to remember that it doesn't have to be a cancer journey. It just is life. And we have to have support network. We have to have our friends and our family to help us through the regular stuff that life throws our way. I mean, we're never prepared for what today's going to bring. We've never lived today, so we don't know what today's going to bring, and we're not always prepared for it. So having a support system is vital. It's key.
Yeah, and I would also say that accepting the support system is sometimes tough for us females who think we can do it all and think we've got it all under control. And you quickly realize how important that is, that you just have to let go and let somebody else take your kid to practice, and let somebody else bring dinner by. And you know what? If they miss that practice, it's not the end of the world. Situations like this, I think, put things in perspective. And while none of us want to go through it, I certainly learned a lot about what's important and what's not. And I think that my kids and my family learned that as well.
Yeah, the lens through which we see the world changes when we have different experiences. And, we really do have to consider what's important. And you're right. So they miss a practice. It's not the end of the world. What's important is that you're together and that you're healing and you're taking the time that you need to take care of your body, because it's something that we as women very often don't necessarily do, right? We put ourselves on the back burner and we take care of everyone else, and we do for everyone else before we do for ourselves. And it's really important throughout our lives, but especially now as we get older. I don't know about you guys, but my body is kind of interesting at 46 years old. I just not quite sure what the heck's going on some days. And it's important that we put ourselves, if not first, a very close second, to be able to advocate for ourselves and take care of ourselves. Quick, we're going to take a break just to hear a little bit about our upcoming services, and we'll be right back.
Are you a yogi in Southern Maryland looking for a place to practice on Thursday mornings? Look no further than Gentle Yoga with Lori Bruce at Hope and Healing in Leonardtown. A certified yoga therapist, Lori brings over 2 decades of yoga training and teaching to her classes. Gentle Yoga with Lori is suitable for all levels. Join us in person or tune in from home, as all Thursday morning classes will be available virtually. Space is limited, so reserve your spot today at loribruceyoga.com/schedule.
So you guys have both shared a little bit about kind of what you've learned, but I guess I'm curious, you both have daughters, amazing young women they are, and I'm just curious, what have you told them, and what do you want them to learn from your journey to be able to take into their life and learn from?
So my daughter, from the beginning, wanted to research the best possible hospitals for me to go to. We're talking a little elementary school Lydia. She was amazing from the beginning. I'll never, ever forget, while I was recovering from one of my surgeries, I think I needed to change something, or I was getting ready to take a shower, and I said, "You probably want to go in the other room. They don't want to scar you for life." And she said, "Mommy, I don't see scars. I see you." So that has stuck with me forever. A close friend of mine told me he had been through cancer himself multiple times, and he said, in the weirdest of ways, your kids are going to be stronger and better adults because of this. You didn't choose for them to go through this, but they're going to be better, well-rounded adults because of this. But anyway, back to what I've told her, and it's really, again, listen to your body. Do not ignore anything your body says. I did the genetic testing, so I'm not predisposed to any cancers, and I don't carry the gene, so that's good news for both of my kids. But yeah, just for both of them, I've said you have to listen to your bodies.
Yeah, and along the lines of what Jen said, both of my kids were rock stars. Grace actually decided, she was already in allied health, but I think this solidified that she wanted to definitely go into the medical field. She was right there with me, changing bandages and just checking to make sure everything was good to go. And I had a catheter that was in for at least 2 weeks after my surgery. So, she was a trooper. And Olivia was, "Here, Mom, you need to have this. You need to keep your strength up. Here's the protein shake." She's more of the didn't maybe want to handle all the medical type stuff, but she was totally there with my nutrition. She's like, "You need to have a banana. You need to eat some of this." So, and at that point, food was not really anything I wanted. So she was making me shakes and keeping my my diet really well. But as far as what I would tell my kids, definitely what Jen said. Know your body. You are your best advocate. I highly recommend annual exams. They also have, for my cervical cancer that I had, they have an HPV shot. So I would encourage folks to educate themselves on those things, because if I had that, this could have been prevented. So, I'm a big proponent of that. Be informed, listen to your body, and, seek medical advice whenever needed. And if it's something that maybe your doctor doesn't agree with, I would highly recommend, again, listening to your body and maybe having a second conversation with the doctor. I was very lucky. My doctors were bam, bam, bam. And just, my cancer was out in 2 weeks. So, that was, I think, a a record. But I was also very persistent. I was very adamant, and I annoyed a lot of people. But, I got what I needed at the end. So anyway.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I forgot to mention is it was one thing that my oncologist told me. And in the very beginning, I ended up being fortunate enough to go through Johns Hopkins, and they were amazing from beginning to end. They were with me. But he said in the beginning, let me be your doctor. We have so many resources at our fingertips that we think are valuable. And I had to stop myself from Google searching and looking. And there's some good resources out there, but I did promise him that I would let him be my doctor. And it worked out well for me. So that's another thing. Don't get caught up in the Google searching and thinking you can figure it all out through that, because you really can't.
I had the same advice. My doctor said, don't do that. And I did, maybe for the first couple of days, go and try to join like a Facebook group, a support group, stuff like that. And then I quickly stopped doing all that. I didn't WebMD. And again, it was exactly what she said. Let them be your doctor. They know, they do this every day.
Right. And there are support groups out there. I did join a few on Facebook, and some I felt were beneficial, but to be honest, I ended up leaving them just because everybody's story is different, and I had to focus on mine and let my doctor and my family be the center focus of my journey.
That was the same way. And what I found was a little bit more helpful was reaching out to friends and friends of friends who maybe have gone through the same thing that I was going through, just to get tips of what worked for them, what didn't work. And I think it was an adamant, don't WebMD, you're not a doctor, don't WebMD, don't do it. And, if you want to join a group, then every story is different, just like what you said, Jen.
Oh, and we see it all the time, just in general, right? We have these, what do they call them? Keyboard trolls, people that just randomly post stuff that they wouldn't maybe normally say to people face to face. And unfortunately, I think sometimes in those various different groups, people don't share the good stuff. They don't share their successes and their positive experiences. They share the negative, and that goes with any kind of journey, any kind of group that you're in. And it just goes to show that, if we feel like we're being drugged down by what we're consuming on social media or the news or even the friends and family that we're spending time with, we have to consider pulling ourselves away from that. And you guys were fortunate enough and found places and people that were supportive and encouraging and positive and uplifting in the midst of a very scary, scary time.
Yeah.
What have you learned about yourself through this journey?
I'm a lot stronger and a lot more annoying than I ever thought I could be. Persistent. I can be much more persistent than I ever really thought that I could be. I did not take no for an answer. And I was very firm, but I actually remember having to tell somebody once, I'm like, weird. So do you have cancer right now? And I'm, I try to be a relatively level-headed, nice person, but sometimes I was shocked at how persistent I could be.
I think that I learned a lot about how you don't have to have things perfect. You don't have to have the perfect birthday party for your kid. You don't have to have, the perfect backpack for the first day of school. I think I was really wrapped up in making sure everything was perfect, and I got dealt a hand of, this is not perfect and you're going to figure it out. And I was able to dig in, and I was surprised with how I didn't let my head go into dark places for very long. It certainly went there, definitely went there. And that's what I tell a lot of people going through the journey. Reach out. Do not let your head go into a dark place, because the worst part of the entire experience, the worst part of from beginning to now, was the waiting period in the beginning, not knowing, okay, how serious is this? What is it going to look like for me and for my family? So I think I was able to get out of that dark place, and I was proud of myself for being able to stay positive pretty early on. And again, I attest that to my family, you guys, my friends, and my doctors, really.
That's a great point, Jen. I mean, I know I actually allowed myself one day of crying and poor pitiful me. but I said, I was like, I'm going to give myself one day. And then I mean, like you said, it was stressful. It was the unknown is what's so hard about all of that. And what do I tell my kids? And I don't know what to tell my kids. I don't know if I don't know. The whole unknown is the scariest part of it.
Well, and the other thing is people don't know what to say when you tell them what you're going through. And it would be easy to get really upset with what people say and hurt by the feelings of, oh, wish I could get a free boob job, But it's just such an awkward conversation. And I don't hold that against anybody who said things like that, because you just don't know what to say. And you don't know what that other person needs to hear. So that's another thing, is just accept, if you're going through a journey like that, just take everything with, what do they say, a grain of salt. It just is what it is. People don't know what to say. And if they care about you, they're just trying to help.
And maybe trying to make it a little lighter when.
Right.
Yeah. And I would say if you have friends or family that are going through this, just try to be their support system. They're going to need it. And a lot of the biggest help is, as Jen said before, just accepting the help when you need it. Having somebody come and clean their house. I mean, I know that was one of my things. Like, I hate a dirty house. And somebody got me a cleaning service, which was amazing and was never even anything that I would have thought about until I went through this journey. And when I couldn't clean my house by myself. And that was the first time where I was really, even after having C-sections, I could still move around. But this was the first surgery where I was kind of down for a while. And, couldn't cook, couldn't clean, couldn't do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, accepting the help that's in front of you is what I'm hearing you say, both of you, is that people want to help. People don't know what to do. People, anytime life is not, rainbows and unicorns, people sometimes don't know what to do. If there's a loss of some kind, a death of some kind, illness, anything that's throws things off, people, unless they've experienced it themselves, they don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. And so, just considering what it would be like to be in that person's shoes, and what do you think you might need, and that might be a cleaning service, it might be a meal, it might be a phone call, it might be just a text, it might be some funny memes, who knows, right? Just do what you can. Yeah. So anything else that we haven't touched on that you think is important for our listeners to hear, whether they're a male that's listening who is like, man, how do I support my wife or my girlfriend or my mom or whomever, or whether it's a female who needs to hear that she is strong and amazing and capable. Anything else you want to share with our listeners?
Gosh, I can't think of anything specific. You know your people, what they really want, and if they need help, and just take a second and think about what you might be doing for them. Do it for them, what you think they really want. I had a friend who literally dropped off paper towels and water bottles. It was just so practical and so awesome at the same time. I was kind of new to my neighborhood, and someone I barely knew, who ended up becoming a close friend, set up a whole meal train from the neighborhood. I had so much help that we had to turn some away. So let your people help you. And then it's going to help you pay it forward in the future. And spouses out there, you are on the front line with them. And I can't say enough about how amazing my husband is and how amazing he was through the entire process. He promised in the beginning I would never go to the doctors alone, and I never did. I never spent a night alone. 5 months on the couch, he was right there. So spouses, you're right there, and stay right there. It's my best advice.
Mm-hmm. And to that vein, somebody needs to help them too, right? I mean, so friends of the spouse, they are probably going through it even harder than the actual person going through it, because you're watching your wife that you love, go through all of this, and you feel helpless. So I think, that's a great point, Jen. It's the spouses and the kids out there that, think about them as well and be there for them. I mean, I know my kids they kept a lot of it internalized. I was shocked to find out that my kids hadn't told hardly anybody that I was going through what I was going through. And, I asked them why. And they were like, well, it would just feel more real then. So, I mean, it's kind of hard if they don't want to tell their friends what's going on. But at the same time, those who do know, it's very important to be there for your kids and for your husband.
Right. And that reminds me of a time when I was in the hospital. I had an infection throughout. After one of my recoveries, and a friend of ours came and basically took Matt away from the hospital just for a couple hours, just to go. I don't know. They went to, maybe they got a beer or something, but I remember that made me feel really good that he was able to get something that I couldn't provide. And I knew he didn't really want to do, but he seemed refreshed when he came back.
Something they needed, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't have to be journey with cancer. It can just be life in general.
Right.
We have to be supports to each other. We have to look out for each other. We have to each have our friends and our connections and our supports. It's so important. Guys, I'm so appreciative of you guys taking your time today to sit down and share with me your stories. I've told you both before that you're amazing rock stars, and I'm so proud of both of you for all that you've gone through. And we have listeners today that are going through their own journey of some kind, and just hear me when I say that you two you're a rock star, and don't forget to put your Wonder Woman cape on sometimes, because it's there, and we deserve to show it.
Well, and I think I can speak for both Jenny and I that we think that what you're doing for the community is amazing. Bringing mental health to the forefront is huge, and we appreciate what you're doing. I work with middle school children, and it's real out there. They need the support that you're willing to provide.
I agree.
Thank you. It's an honor to provide what we can for the community, and thank you. I appreciate that. And hey, we can take a quick minute too, for those of you that are watching on YouTube, to give a shout out to our friend Tiffany from Homeland Heart Apparel, because all three of us are wearing her shirts today.
Yes, unplanned. We did it, Tiffany, without planning.
Did it?
No planning at all. And
I promise, Jen Murphy and I didn't even plan to wear the exact.
Yeah. Jenny had to spend all her time focusing on technology this morning, so she didn't have time to text me about a shirt.
There was no coordination. So, strong, incredible women all around. So awesome, ladies. Thanks so much for joining me. Listeners, thanks for joining us. As always, if you want to add anything, if you want to share your story, feel free to email me, Jennifer@hopehealingtherapy.com. You can always send us a message on our DMs. We'd love to hear from you, and thanks for listening. Have a great day.
Thank you.